State's next witness.
Detective Mark Musser.
Detective Musser.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't. I thought so.
Mr. Strolla, your mic might be on.
Thank you, George.
Just letting you know. Detective, if you'll come forward to the front for me, please, sir. And raise your right hand. The clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
All right, Detective, you'll come around and have a seat for us. Be sure and speak up loudly, directly into the microphone so everybody can hear you, all right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Guy.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. If you please tell the members of the jury your name.
Detective Mark Musser,
Detective Musser, where are you employed?
Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with JSO?
A little over 9 years.
And your current assignment is where?
The homicide unit.
How long specifically then as a homicide detective?
A little over almost 4.5 years.
And just briefly tell the jury what your duties and responsibilities are as a detective with a homicide unit at JSO.
We conduct investigations of any death investigations in the city, anything from homicides to suicides to overdoses to accidental death.
All right. Were you a detective in any other divisions before moving to homicide?
Yes.
And what were those?
I was in the burglary unit, and it was also in our aggravated battery unit.
And what types of cases are handled by the aggravated battery unit?
Aggravated battery unit would handle non-life-threatening shootings. It had to be a weapons-related case where it was just non-life-threatening injuries.
So in total, how long have you been a detective for JSO?
It's actually about 5.5 years total.
All right. And were you in patrol before joining the detective division?
Yes.
In your law enforcement career, approximately how many death investigations have you participated in?
I would say I've been to hundreds of scenes.
Let me turn your attention to the evening of November 23rd, 2012. On that date, were you dispatched to the scene of a shooting at the Gate gas station located at 8251 Southside Boulevard?
Yes, I was.
And did you respond to that scene?
Yes, I did.
About what time did you arrive?
I arrived at approximately 9 o'clock.
All right. Did you later learn the deceased name from that shooting to be Jordan Davis?
Yes, I did.
All right. Had Jordan Davis's body already been transported by rescue by the time you arrived?
Yes.
Would you explain for the jury the team concept that JSO employs to handle and respond to homicide scenes?
The homicide unit is separated into teams. There are 6 teams. There are 4 detectives and a sergeant on each team, and we investigate the cases as a team.
And were you assigned as the lead detective on this case?
Yes, I was.
And how did that come to be? Were you selected? Was it your turn, or how did that happen?
It was my turn. It rotates amongst the detectives.
All right. And did you eventually make an arrest for the murder of Jordan Davis and the attempted murder of 3 other juveniles?
Yes, I did.
And who did you arrest?
Michael Dunn?
You see that person in court this afternoon?
Yes, I do.
Can you please identify him by where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's to the left of Mr. Strolla, wearing kind of the purple pullover and kind of a purple-pink tie.
Let the record reflect the witnesses identify the defendant.
Thank you, sir. Had the scene at the Gate gas station been taped off and secured when you arrived?
Yes.
And when you arrived, did you speak with other members of the sheriff's office who were already on scene?
Yes, I did.
And did evidence technicians respond to process that scene?
Yes, they did.
All right. While you were at the scene, did you and other homicide detectives speak with any witnesses who were present at the time of the shooting?
Yes, we did.
And among those witnesses that evening, did you interview personally Samantha Ickes and Maria Grimes?
Yes, I did speak with them at the scene.
All right. And while you're doing that, are other members of your homicide team interviewing other witnesses at the scene?
Yes, my sergeant was actually conducting additional witness interviews at the scene while I was doing mine.
All right. That evening, did your office get a vehicle description and tag number of the car from which the shots were fired?
Yes.
All right. And from that information, were you able to retrieve the name of the person who the car was registered to?
Yes, I was.
Did you conduct a walkthrough of the scene?
Yes, we did.
And tell the jury briefly what's a walkthrough. What do you mean by that?
I'll meet with the evidence technician at the scene. We simply walk through the scene, looking to identify any possible items of evidentiary value, discuss the scenario of what we're being told at the time so that myself and the evidence technician are on the same page so we know what we're looking for.
All right. And during your walkthrough, did you observe the red Dodge Durango at the gas station?
Yes, I did.
Did you or other homicide detectives attempt to get video surveillance from outside the Gate gas station that evening?
Well, as soon as we arrived, we were advised by patrol officers that there was no video on the exterior of the business.
All right. Were you able to retrieve, or you or one of your team members able to retrieve video surveillance from inside the gate store?
Yes, we were.
All right. At a later date, did you or another homicide detective attempt to get video surveillance from the adjacent plaza of stores that covered the parking lot?
Yes, we did.
Were there any functioning cameras that covered the parking lot area of that plaza?
None were located.
While you were at the scene, did you attempt to interview any of the three young men that were in the Dodge Durango at the time of the shooting?
No, we did not.
And why not?
We decided to wait and have them brought down to the homicide office so that we could have a controlled environment with no distractions.
All right. And the names of those three young men are what?
Tommy Storns, Leland Brunson, and Tevin Thompson.
And so what did you have done with those three individuals?
They were brought to our homicide office. They were each placed in individual rooms, and we began interviews.
All right. Were you still at the scene while those three young men were transported to the police station?
Yes.
And about what time did you leave the scene at the gate station?
I left the scene approximately, checking my notes real quick, I believe it was about 11:30, or excuse me, about 11:15.
All right. All right. And where'd you go from the scene?
Went to the homicide office.
All right. Were the three young men already there when you arrived at the police station?
Yes.
All right. And were they interviewed that evening?
Yes, they were.
Were they interviewed separately or together?
Separately.
Okay. And why is that done?
Just so that we can talk to them on an individual basis, and there's no crossing of information. They can't hear what the other one's saying to us at that time.
All right. And is that standard procedure when you interview witnesses to crimes?
Yes, it is.
All right. Were any of the interviews of those three young men recorded either by video or audio?
No, they were not.
Why not?
That's standard procedure. We do not record individuals who are not considered suspects.
All right. Was a written statement taken from any of those three young men?
No.
Did you participate in the interview of Leland Brunson that evening?
Yes, I did.
And about what time did that interview begin?
I interviewed Leland approximately 11:30 that night.
And where was that interview conducted?
Interview room of the homicide office.
Was anyone else present for that interview?
Detective Oliver and Leland's mother was also present.
All right. Who's Detective Oliver?
He was my partner at that time.
All right. And why was Leland Brunson's mother in the interview room during his interview?
We thought it was the right thing to do. He was visibly distraught, and his mother was present, and we thought it would be the right thing to do to have him in the room just for a little bit of have somebody to console him.
All right. And his demeanor, when you just say distraught, what do you mean?
He was very quiet, visibly shaken. You could tell it had been a rough time for him.
Was Leland Brunson cooperative with you?
Yes.
Did he answer all of your questions?
Yes.
Did you also participate in the interview of Tevin Thompson?
Yes, I did.
And who was present for that interview?
Detective Oliver.
And the same Detective Oliver that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, sir.
All right. And about what time did that interview begin?
That was approximately 11:55 p.m.
All right. Was Tevin Thompson cooperative with you?
Yes, he
And
was.
did he answer all of your questions?
Yes, he did.
Did you participate in the initial interview of Tommy Storns?
I did not.
And why is that?
He arrived at the office prior to my return from the scene. Detective Oliver was already at the homicide office, so he began the interview with Tommy Storns.
All right. During those interviews, did you or Detective Oliver advise any of those three young men that Jordan Davis had actually died?
Not until we completed our interviews.
Okay, and why did you wait until the conclusion of the interviews to advise them that Jordan Davis had died?
Unfortunately, it's something we often have to do with witnesses at scenes if they're not aware of a death, because we know once we tell them someone has died, it can be so traumatic to them that they might shut down, and we want them talking to us at that point to gain information, so we wait until the end to finally tell them what the situation is.
All right. Later that evening, or even after midnight, did you again meet with each of those three young men for the purpose of showing them a photo spread?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what is a photo spread and how is it used in an investigation such as this?
Photo spread is used for trying to get an identification. You take an individual, in this case the suspect, included with 5 other photographs of people who have similar characteristics to that individual, and it's a way of trying to see if the witness can identify a particular person.
All right, and did the photo spread in this case include a photograph of Michael Dunn?
Yes, it did.
All right, and is that because you had his name when you ran the tag number?
Yes, he was a registered owner of the vehicle, and his physical description was consistent with the physical descriptions we were getting at the scene.
Was more than one copy of that photo spread created?
Yes.
And why was that?
So each person you're going to show a photo spread to gets an individual. That way, if one of them happens to mark on the picture they've identified, the person who behind them who's getting it is going to get a clean slate. They're not going to see any kind of markings on it that would tell them somebody else has already identified somebody.
And were the three individual photo spreads identical to each other?
Yes.
All right. And were those photo spreads presented to the three young men while they were together or separately?
Separate.
And why is that?
Once again, so none of them know if any of the others have identified anybody.
All right. Who did you show the photo spread to first?
I believe I showed it to Leland Brunson first. Oh, correction, Tevin Thompson.
All right. And about what time was that?
Showed it to him at approximately 12:50 a.m.
And where did you do that?
in the same interview room we'd interviewed him in.
All right. Before presenting the photo spread to Tevin Thompson, did you give him any instructions about viewing the photo spread?
Yes, we have it's called a photo spread instructions sheet that we read aloud to them. It gives them basically what the procedure is, and I go over that with him, make sure he understands them, and he signs the form acknowledging he understands the instructions.
All right, and was that procedure followed with Tevin Thompson, Leland Brunson, and Tommy Storms?
Yes.
All right. Did you then present the photo spread to Tevin Thompson?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Normal way to do it is I would have the pictures upside down. I shuffle them so I don't know where the target person is, and then I hand the pictures upside down to Tevin, and I will actually look down so I'm not looking at him while he's going through his photo spread, because that way I can't see who he's looking at, so there's no facial expression for me to indicate I know who he's looking for or anything that could tell him that's the suspect.
And did Tevin Thompson identify anyone in the photo spread?
Yes, he did.
Who was that?
Michael Dunn.
And did you have Tevin Thompson sign and date the photo that he selected?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
It states 162. First, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
This is the photo spread instructions form that I went over with Tevin.
And how do you recognize it to be the same?
His name is listed. It's got his signature, my signature, and it also has the red dot in the top right corner, which is what I marked to make sure that I know what the original is.
Very good. Will you read the instructions to the jury that you read to these three young men that evening before presenting each of them with a photo spread?
Sure. The instructions are, the person who committed the crime being investigated may or may not be in these photographs. It is just as important to clear innocent persons from suspicion as to identify guilty parties. You are not obligated to pick anyone from these photographs. Carefully review each photograph presented to you. Individuals presented in this photo spread may not appear exactly as they did on the date of the crime because features such as head and facial hair are subject to change. Look at every photograph before you make a decision. Take as much time as you need to examine each photograph. I am not allowed to give you any assistance in identifying or not identifying a suspect. You will be asked to sign and date the back of the photograph if one is selected. Do not discuss this photo spread or the results of this photo spread with any other witnesses.
All right. Let me show you then. It states 161. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
It's a photograph of Michael Dunn that Tevin Thompson identified.
And how do you recognize it to be the same?
Tevin has signed it, dated it, indicated this is the man that was shooting, and I signed and put my identification number on it.
And let me show you 164 and 166. We'll take 164 first.
Okay. As the photo spread instructions for Leland Brunson.
And 166.
It's the photo spread instructions for Tommy Storms.
All right. And how do you recognize it to be the same as each of those?
Same also, they each, their names are both placed at the top. They have both signed it. I have also signed it and put the date and time.
All right. Did you then, after you showed the photo spread to Tevin Thompson, did you then present that same photo spread to Leland Brunson?
Yes, I did.
All right. And again, was that done separately from any other witness?
Yes, it was in the same room as we had interviewed him in.
All right. Did Leland Brunson identify anyone from that photo spread?
He did not make a positive identification.
All right. Was he able to narrow the photographs down to anyone?
He was able to narrow it down to 2 photographs.
You know, if I can have just a moment.
Yes, sir.
He narrowed it down to 2 photos?
Yes.
Okay, so did you have him sign either one of those?
No,
Why not?
because it was not a positive identification.
All right. Did you note, though, which 2 photos he selected?
Yes.
Okay. Was one of those photographs of Michael Dunn?
Yes, it was.
All right. After you showed the photo spread to Leland Brunson, did you then present it to Tommy Storns?
Yes, I did.
All right. And did you follow the same steps that you've already described?
Yes.
All right. When Tommy Storns was shown the photo spread, did he identify anyone?
He did not make a positive identification.
And what did he do? Did he narrow it down?
He narrowed it down into the same 2 photographs that Leland Brunson narrowed it down to, which included Michael Dunn.
All right. And the other photograph you refer to as a filler photo?
Correct.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Let me show you first 163. You recognize that?
Yes, that's the photograph of Michael Dunn.
Okay. And does that contain the photos, all the photos in the spread?
Yes.
All right. Let me show you, and you can flip through it.
Yes, it appears to contain all the photographs that were shown.
All right. And 165.
The same photograph of Michael Dunn.
All right. And again, does that contain all the photographs?
It appears to.
All right. So these are not marked because there was not a positive identification.
Correct.
All right. But Tommy Storns and Leland Brunson did select the defendant's photograph as well as a filler photograph?
Correct.
Do you recall which filler photograph they each selected?
Yes.
All right. Would you pull that out? Okay. And let me have this one, if I can. Judge, may I publish these to the jury?
Yes, sir.
So in my right hand, I have the photograph of,
Michael Dunn.
and in the left, the filler photograph.
That's our filler photograph.
So these are the 2 photographs selected by each Leland Brunson and Tommy Storms.
Yes.
After those photo spreads were viewed, did you and your sergeant and other team members continue investigating the case?
Yes, we did.
At some point after midnight in those early morning hours after the photo spreads were presented, did you obtain an arrest warrant for the defendant's arrest?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time of day was that arrest warrant signed?
3:35 in the morning.
And was the arrest warrant signed for the charges of murder and attempted murder?
Yes.
All right, when was the defendant, and let me just back up. When you say 3:30 or 3:35 in the morning, are you talking about the morning now of the 24th?
Yes, Saturday morning at approximately 3:35.
All right. And when was the defendant taken into custody?
Saturday morning, approximately 11 a.m.
All right, and where?
At his residence in Brevard County,
All right, and by what agency?
Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
And was that pursuant to the warrant that had been signed in Jacksonville?
Yes.
All right. Did you and other JSO homicide detectives or your sergeant drive to Brevard County that morning?
Yes, we did.
And about what time did you leave Jacksonville?
Approximately 12:30 that afternoon.
12:30 noonish?
Yes.
On the 24th?
Correct.
All right. Had you been home yet, or had you taken any type of break to go to sleep?
No.
Is that because you continued to investigate the case throughout that evening?
Yes.
While you were in Brevard County that day, did you interview a woman named Rhonda Rower?
Yes, we did.
And about what time of day on the 24th did you interview Rhonda Rower?
That was approximately about 5:15 in the afternoon.
And where did you interview her?
I was at a neighbor's residence of hers.
Was Ms. Rower cooperative with you?
Yes, she was.
Did she answer your questions?
Yes.
And while you were in Brevard County, did you go to the defendant's residence?
Yes, we did.
All right. Did you locate the black Volkswagen Jetta?
Yes, we did.
And was the interior of that car searched by a crime scene analyst with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, it was.
All right. And was a firearm retrieved from that car?
Yes, there was.
All right. Did you later have that firearm and the car itself, the black Jetta itself, transported to Jacksonville?
Yes.
And when did you do that?
The firearm was brought back. I'd have to check my notes. I believe it was the Wednesday the following week. I believe that's the 28th of November, if I'm not mistaken. And the vehicle was brought back, I believe, several days later.
All right. When did you and the other detectives return to Jacksonville?
Sunday, early afternoon on Sunday.
All right, so now the 25th?
Correct.
All right. As part of your investigation, did you visit the hotel where the defendant and Rhonda Rower had stayed on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
Yes, we did.
And when did you do that?
That was on, I believe it was Monday, the 26th.
All right. And where was that hotel?
It's a Sheraton Hotel located in Deerwood Park.
You had been to the scene at the gate station. Can you give the jury an idea of roughly how far it is from the gate gas station to the hotel, the Sheraton Hotel?
Driving distance, it's approximately 3 miles.
Did you have an occasion, let me turn your attention to the next day, November 27th. Did you have an occasion on that day to view the red SUV now at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office warehouse?
Yes.
And was your purpose in viewing the car to examine the child locks on the car?
Yes, it was.
Did you do that?
Yes, we did.
All right. Was Detective Bill Whittacy with you that day?
Yes.
And he's an evidence technician with the Sheriff's Office?
Correct.
All right. And were any other detectives with you?
Detective Oliver.
All right. And when you examined the child locks, what position were they in? Was the on position or the off position?
They were in the off position.
While you were viewing the car, did you see anything underneath the seats of the car?
There did appear to be some kind of plastic tripod, like multiple-legged. I had a hard time describing what it is exactly.
All right. Let me ask you to turn to your monitor. Do you see States 43 in the photograph?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me show you States 44. 43 and 44. Do you recognize that as the red Dodge Durango?
Yes.
Okay. Can you circle for the jury, if it appears on that photograph, the area where you saw this tripod?
When we were looking at it, we could see its legs around underneath the seat right here.
All right. And you've indicated the rear passenger seat?
Correct.
Okay. Did you or Detective Oliver make any attempt to get that tripod out of there?
Detective Oliver actually sat in the seat to see if it was something that could be reached.
And was he able to reach it?
Not seated in the vehicle, no.
Okay. Were you able to remove it from there?
Yes.
Explain to the jury how you were able to get that tripod out from underneath that seat.
To actually pull it, you would actually have to open the door, step out of the vehicle, and then pull it out the side of the vehicle. You couldn't get it out with the door shut.
Okay, so you'd have to open the back door and then pull it out outside the car?
Correct.
As opposed to from underneath the seat?
Correct.
In front of you? Okay. As part of your investigation, did you also order and receive cell phone records for Leland Brunson, Tommy Storms, and Tevin Thompson?
Yes, I did.
And you received those?
Yes.
All right, and were they maintained in your file?
Yes.
All right, and on those phone records, did you examine them to determine if and when any of those three young men had called 911?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Judge, these are marked for identification only at this recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
It's the response from Metro PCS that for the telephone number of Tevin Thompson.
All right. And 8Q, you recognize that?
Yes, these appear to be the phone numbers for, or the phone call record for Leland Brunson.
And 8R, you recognize that?
Yes, these appear to be the cell phone records for Tommy Storms.
Judge, at this time, I would offer 8P, 8Q, 8R into evidence as the next numbered exhibits. I believe they would be 198 through 200.
Mr. Strolla?
No objection, Your Honor.
And Madam Clerk, would that be the next proper number?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so 8P will be received as 198, and those are the records of Mr. Thompson. 8Q will be received as 199, and those are the records of Mr. Brunson. And 8R will be received as 200, and those are the records of Mr. Storms.
Detective, did you identify those records by the phone number of the records?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Thompson's, do those records come with a self-identifying sheet? That is, the records tell you who the phone belongs to?
It tells you who the registered name is on that phone.
Okay, the other two records from Sprint, that of Tommy Storms and Leland Brunson, do they self-identify who the phone is registered to?
No, they just, in their response to the subpoena, the company just sends us the phone records for that number.
All right, so you identify it by the number.
Correct.
Your Honor, is there any objection from the defense counsel from the court for the detective to write on the exhibit who the records belong to so there's no confusion?
Mr. Strolla?
Judge, I thought they are well marked. If I can just look at now, I know they were marked in my evidence.
Okay. Apparently they just, on two of them, it's just the phone number.
Judge, if I may have a moment to verify.
Yes, sir. Any objection, Mr. Strolla?
Not in the order we just went over, Judge, no objection.
All right, so the detective can write on the records themselves the name of the person who
So
corresponds with that phone number.
Yes, sir. 199 would be, again, who?
Just one on
That
the
would be Mr.
outside.
Brunson.
Yep.
Yes.
take out the sleeve.
Oh, okay. That's what I was asking.
And then on 200, Judge, the phone record of Tommy Storms, he'll mark that accordingly. All right, and let me ask you now to look at states 199, the phone records of Leland Brunson. Detective, do those records reflect that Leland Brunson ever called 911 on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
No, they did not show Leland Brunson calling 911.
Do they reflect the last outgoing call before 7:38 p.m. on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
The last outbound call is at approximately 6 p.m.
All right. Let me show you then the records of Tevin Thompson, states 198, and ask you if those phone records reflect a call to 911 on the evening of November 23rd, 2012.
Yes, they do.
At what time is the call to 911?
7:43 p.m.
And does do the phone records reflect the duration of that 911 call?
They say 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Will you tell the members of the jury, please, what the phone records reflect about the last outgoing phone call before the call to 911?
That outgoing call was placed at 7:22 p.m., and it was not answered.
And if we can look at 200 then, the phone records of Tommy Storms. If you would examine those and tell the members of the jury whether or not they reflect a call to 911 on the evening of November 23rd, 2012.
Yes, they do.
And tell the members of the jury what time it was.
Approximately 7:40 p.m.
And what was the duration of that call to 911?
Appears to be 1 second.
And what is the last outgoing call from that cell phone prior to the call to 911?
The last outbound call is shown at 5:05 p.m.
All right. And you've been reading from those records, and I'm asking for dates and times and calls to 911 and duration. Is all of that readily apparent on the records themselves?
Yes.
Okay, so these aren't in any kind of code.
No. I'm used to looking at them, but I think they're pretty self-evident.
Do the phone records tell you if the call is inbound or outbound?
Yes.
Do they tell you the time of the call?
Yes.
And the date?
Yes.
And the duration?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Detective, after November 27th, did you continue to investigate this case?
Yes.
And did you interview witnesses as part of that ongoing investigation?
Yes, we did.
At some point, did you interview a gentleman named Christopher LeBlanc?
Yes, I did.
And when did you interview that individual?
That interview was on Monday, December 3rd.
And why was it that you interviewed Mr. LeBlanc, Christopher LeBlanc, on December 3rd? How did you get to him on that date?
I learned about Mr. LeBlanc after reviewing all of the 911 calls on the previous Friday, November 30th.
And was he cooperative with you?
Yes.
All right. Did you also interview Christopher LeBlanc's sister, Alyssa LeBlanc?
Yes, I did.
And when did you interview her?
That was on Tuesday, December 4th.
All right. And again, why did you interview her on that day?
We had learned about her also the same phone call from Friday the 30th, and the Tuesday was the first day that we were actually able to make contact with her and make a time that we'd come speak with her.
All right. This may seem like a silly question. They were interviewed on separate days. Were they interviewed separately?
Yes, they were.
Okay. As part of your investigation, did you have items of physical evidence submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for further analysis?
Yes, we did.
And did that include the firearm recovered from the defendant's gun, as well as a DNA swab from shell casings collected from the casings at the scene?
Yes.
And did you receive results back from those examinations?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, may I have a moment?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you I'd give you a little quicker break this afternoon because of the seats. So why don't we take 10 minutes, make it 15, because I know some of you might need 15. There's a glare back there. Call it 2:30, and we'll resume. Don't discuss the case among yourselves or with others. See you back in 15 minutes. Mr. Guy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that was helpful. Maybe one more short break before we're finished for the day. That should do it. Have a seat. Mr. Stroller.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may please the court.
Yes, sir.
How you doing today, Detective Musser?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Very well. Do you have a copy of your report in front of you?
Yes, I do.
If at any time you need to refresh your recollection, go ahead, but don't read from it if that's okay. Now, they talked a little bit about your career. You were a burglary detective, correct?
Correct.
And you were only burglary detective for about 6 months.
Correct.
And then you went to what you said, the aggravated battery detective?
Correct.
Okay, and that's domestic violence, things like that?
No, sir. Oh, not domestic violence, just a non-life-threatening gun crimes.
Okay. And in that respect, you were there for about 8 months.
Correct.
All right. Now, in JSO, when you move from a patrolman to a detective, it's a lateral move, correct?
Correct.
It's not a promotion.
No.
You don't have to take a test.
Nope.
It's not like a sergeant's exam or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
You basically get interviewed,
Correct.
and that's after it's given out to JSO, I guess like a job application is put out there. They advertise the position.
Yes, they'll say they're interviewing for people interested in coming to the investigations unit.
All right, and you did that for the burglary unit?
I did that for the investigations unit. It's not specifically for the burglary unit. That was just the first unit I went to.
Okay, and then from burglary to aggravated battery, you do another interview?
No, sir.
All right, do they advertise the position?
Yes.
And then how do you get that position?
That particular one, I just responded to the lieutenant, said I was interested. I was called, brought over, said, offer me the position.
And that was after it was advertised?
Yes.
Now, you were only there 8 months, correct?
Correct.
Now, at one point, a sergeant came over to you and asked you if you wanted to be in homicide, correct?
Correct.
And they never interviewed for that position, is that true?
That is correct.
They never even advertised it to anybody in JSO, correct?
Correct.
Now, matter of fact, the same sergeant that handpicked you and appointed you as a homicide detective actually left your unit just a couple months after you were appointed, correct?
Correct.
And that's when Sergeant Paul came on?
Yes.
Now, the night of this incident, Sergeant Paul was your direct supervisor, correct?
Correct.
He didn't interview you for the position, did he?
No.
He didn't appoint you for the position, did he?
No, he did not.
He just happened to be your sergeant because you were already there when he got there.
That is correct.
Now, with that being said, correct me if I'm wrong, did you tell the state you did a brief walkthrough as you got on scene?
Not on scene. Not on scene.
At the homicide, at the crime scene?
Not initially. The walkthrough was done a little bit later.
Right, with the evidence technician?
Yes.
And you said that was brief. Was that your words?
Brief, 20 minutes.
Okay. And in those 20 minutes, you basically showed him the Durango.
Correct.
You showed him the casings on the ground.
Well, it's a combination. It's both of us because he's obviously there also. He can see the same evidence as I can.
Well, then I'm asking you, what did you point out?
I don't recall if I pointed out or if he's there also with me. It's obvious that there are shell casings lying on the ground. Mm-hmm. There are obvious multiple gunshot holes in the side of the truck.
All right. And then what else do you point out, if anything at all?
I know we walked around to the driver's side of the truck. We observed clothing on the ground, what appeared to be a wallet.
Okay. And that's obvious because it's there.
Because it's there.
All right. What else did you point out?
That's all I recall at this time.
Okay. And you have your report there. You want to refresh your recollection?
I can.
Go ahead. Tell me if you put anything in your report, what you pointed out other than what we'll call the obvious.
I think we covered it.
Nothing else, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, you also testified about this tripod underneath the back seat.
Correct?
You testified to the jury that you and Detective Oliver did some kind of investigation with it. Is that what I heard you say?
We noticed it when we came back to the truck to look at the child locks, yes.
All right. And that was several days later, 4 to be exact.
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
And can you tell me where you put in your report that Detective Oliver climbed in the back seat to see if he could get that in or out?
I did not.
It's not in your report.
No, it is not.
So the first time we're hearing about it is today in front of this jury. Is that correct?
First time you've heard about it, yes.
Okay. But it's not in your report, is it?
No, it is not.
All right. And that's something that obviously was relevant to the state to ask you about.
The state decided it was relevant, yes.
And again, it's something that you never included.
I did not.
Now, aren't you trained as an officer, and how long have you been an officer?
I've been with the sheriff's office 9.5 years.
In 9.5 years, aren't you trained where your reports are supposed to be accurate,
Yes,
complete,
yes.
and especially if it's relevant to the case, included in your report?
If I believe it's relevant, yes.
Okay, but you didn't believe it was relevant of what you testified about Detective Oliver sitting on the back seat to try to get that tripod out.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this. Isn't it true when that tripod is there, it actually creates a space under that seat? Isn't that true?
I can't testify to that.
Okay, do you not recall seeing and looking under there like you said you looked under there?
I could see it. I did not go, obviously, put my head underneath it.
All right, so you didn't even go to see if a rifle or shotgun could fit under there, did you?
It did not appear anything else could. I mean, I saw that. That's all I saw.
All right, and you didn't go look to see if maybe a lead pipe or some kind of pipe could be in there?
No, sir.
Or even a blunt object or a stick?
I did not observe anything.
You didn't even look, though. That's correct.
I did not see anything.
Did you look to see if there was space under that seat for a weapon?
I was looking for items, not space.
Now, when you came on scene, isn't it true there was no perimeter stopping people getting in to the plaza attached to the Gate gas station?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, when you got there well after the incident occurred.
Correct.
Tell the jury, what time did you arrive on scene?
I believe it was approximately 9:04.
All right. And at 9:04, and the shooting happened at 7:40, correct?
7:38, I believe. It's the documented time, roughly.
Do you have an independent recollection of when the shooting happened?
That's documented in the report as being the incident time.
All right. Have you reviewed the video prior to your testimony today?
Not today, no, sir.
Okay. When was the last time you reviewed the video of this case?
Several weeks ago.
All right. And you knew you were coming to testify today about this case, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. And how many times have you met with the state attorneys to discuss your testimony without going into the details? How many times have you met with them?
Twice.
All right. Now, on that, and we can assume, correct me if I'm wrong, the video is the best evidence. Would you agree?
The best evidence of what?
In terms of the time.
Not necessarily. Their clock may be different from what, JSO's clock is. I can't tell you the clocks sync up exactly.
But on that video, it has a time with even seconds on it. Isn't that true?
I believe it does.
Okay. And I'm not asking about JSO time. I'm talking about the time on the video.
Yes, sir.
And that's fair.
As best I know, it's reasonable. I can't tell you if it's exactly accurate.
Okay. But yet you put that video in evidence. You took a copy of it from that scene, didn't you?
Yes.
And isn't it true you didn't even watch the video that night while you were on the crime scene?
I did not watch the video that night, not at the crime scene, no.
All right. And that's because you did not have a laptop with you.
Correct, which is standard for us.
Okay. But let me ask you this. How many cars were present in terms of law enforcement when you were there?
Numerous?
Did you ever go to one of your officers and say, put this in your laptop and let me view it?
No, I did not.
Did you ever walk into the Gate gas station and ask the assistant manager, pull up the surveillance, I want to watch it?
I did not.
Now, you were the lead homicide detective, isn't that true?
That's correct.
And even though your sergeant was on scene, it's still your scene.
Yes.
He's going to defer to you.
Sometimes,
All right. In terms of what you want done, it's fair to say?
unless he disagrees with it.
All right. And then did he disagree with anything you did that night?
No, sir.
Did he tell you you should do anything differently?
No, sir.
Did he tell you to go look at the surveillance video?
No, sir.
Is that something you would do as a standard procedure on a crime scene, is go watch the video of what happened?
If I had reason to believe that the actual incident was on video, then yes. But obviously we knew there were no outside video of the actual incident itself.
All right.
So we knew it was the inside of the store, which we knew we could not see any of the actual incident.
All right. And with that being said, there's different camera angles on that video, correct?
Correct.
And you would have actually been able to see about 5 or 6 different angles of witnesses, where they were, what they saw, and what they heard. Isn't that true?
I can't tell what they see from the video. I can't tell what they hear in a video.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you even know if there's audio on that video from the Gate gas station?
Yes, there is audio.
Okay, and when you got there, did you order all of the witnesses into the Gate gas station, or were they already there when you got there?
They were already there.
Now, if they're already inside, correct me if I'm wrong, there's audio where you could hear what the witnesses would have said.
Yes.
And you did not go in there and ask for any time frames to record what your witnesses were saying inside the Gate gas station, did you?
I did not, because this was the first case. I did not realize the Gate had audio at that time. I had never been to a first time I'd ever had surveillance video that would have had audio capability, so it was not something I thought of. So no.
So you didn't even think to ask. Is that what I just heard you say?
Yes, I'd never heard of it before.
And you didn't even talk to the assistant manager to ask her about the video then, because she's the one that copied it for Lieutenant Callahan. Is that correct?
No, sir, because we already had she had provided the copy.
Lieutenant Callahan.
Yes.
Right. And then when she gave it to you again, you just didn't even decide to ask any other officer to put it in their laptop. Is that true?
No, I did not attempt to watch it at the scene.
Did you have the ability to watch it at the scene?
I don't know if I would have because actually a lot of our laptops are unable to play the video that we did receive. The first copy I had actually when we got back to our office, I was unable to play it on our laptops because a lot of our laptops have administrative restrictions on them in certain programs we can't play. So I can't say I would have been able to see it there either way.
But you would have known before you left the scene that you couldn't see it back at your office. Isn't that true?
No, not necessarily. Say all the laptops are different. If it didn't play at the scene, doesn't mean it's not going to play on a computer in the office. I don't know that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Eventually down the road, there were computers in our office that would play it. Mine personally would not.
And again, you would have also been able to find out if other officers' computers did work, but you didn't even try it.
Not at the scene, no, sir.
Can you tell the jury how many law enforcement vehicles were on scene?
I don't recall.
Multiple? I mean, this is a homicide. A lot responded.
Yes, there's multiple marked vehicles there.
More than 10, less than 10.
I'd be guessing less, maybe 10.
All right. And did you ever check any of those 10 to see if it would work?
No, sir.
And there was no crime scene tape up when you came in, I believe, over an hour later. Is that correct?
No, there was crime scene tape when I arrived.
Not where you came in. You came in at Old Bay Meadows, correct?
Yes, where I entered into the
Plaza.
area, there was no crime scene tape, no.
Right. The crime scene tape was at the gate gas station entrance, correct?
Correct.
And then the other side on Bay Meadows, the other entrance was blocked off as well.
Correct.
Now, you also admit that there were other cars and people in that plaza when you came through. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And did you ever interview anybody in that plaza while you were on scene?
No, sir.
Isn't it true you only interviewed the witnesses that were put inside the gate gas station?
We interviewed the witnesses I was aware of.
My question was, it was the witnesses inside the gate gas station, correct?
The witnesses I was aware of who were interviewed.
Tell the jury where they were standing, Detective Musser.
Yes, the witnesses when I interviewed them were inside the gate gas station.
All right, so the answer to my original question was a simple yes, they were in the gas station.
The witnesses I interviewed were there at the gas station.
And again, you learn later that there's audio, correct?
Correct.
Did you ever go back to the gate gas station? Did you ever go back to management? Did you ever go to corporate and say, give me a lengthier time of that audio. I want to know what these witnesses were saying while they were in there.
No, I did not.
And you put, and correct me if I'm wrong, the three gentlemen, you said we didn't interview them until we got to homicide, correct?
That is correct.
Tell the jury where they were standing when you came on scene.
They were, as far as I knew, they were detained. I never saw them at the scene.
Okay. Were you aware that they were put inside the gate gas station with all the other witnesses?
Not initially, no, sir. I never saw them. I couldn't tell you where they were.
Did you just say not initially?
No, sir. What I'm saying is I never saw them.
Right.
I know they were transported by a marked patrol car.
When?
When they were taken down to the homicide office.
When were they transported to the homicide office? And if you need to look at your report, don't read from it. Please just look up.
I believe I requested roughly 10:15 to have them transported.
Well, don't read from it. Refresh your recollection, let me know.
It was approximately 10:15.
All right. And how long were you on scene before 10:15?
A little over an hour.
So for a little over an hour, you had no idea who was in that Durango. Is that what you're saying?
No, I knew patrol officers advised us that they had 3 individuals detained who had been in the Durango.
Where did they advise you those 3 individuals were?
I don't recall specifically knowing where they were.
Is it possible that they were in the gate gas station with all the other witnesses?
It's possible.
And had you pulled the extra video and audio, you would have been able to see and hear what everybody said. Is that true?
Sustained.
Did you pull any other video other than what the state put in evidence today?
Not from the gate gas station, no.
Right. And do you even know, again, when was the last time you watched that video?
A couple weeks ago.
And tell the jury how long is that video that you took of the recording?
I don't recall the exact amount of time that it is.
Okay. And what time was Leland interviewed?
Leland was interviewed, I believe, approximately,
Don't read from your report.
I'm not reading from my report. He was interviewed at 11:30,
All right. And what time was Tevin Thompson interviewed?
11:55.
What about Tommy Storns?
Tommy was interviewed prior to my arrival at the office, so it was earlier than those two.
So, do you want to look at your?
1 second, Mr. Strobel.
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you recall when Tommy Storns was interviewed?
I would have to refer to my report for the exact time.
Please do.
Detective Oliver interviewed him at 10:48.
PM.
Correct.
Can you tell the jury when Sean Atkins was interviewed?
10:31.
All right. Can you tell the jury when you took a sworn statement and videotaped it with Miss Wolfson of that same witness, Sean Atkins?
It was 1:30 in the morning.
All right. So you had Mr. Atkins stay there from 10 something roughly all the way till 1 to take a sworn video statement. Is that correct?
A sworn video was taken of him, yes.
And by sworn, Miss Wolfson made him take an oath like today to tell the truth.
Yes,
And that was the only witness at the homicide office that was recorded. Isn't that true?
that is true.
And isn't it true your standard operating procedures are you can still video record suspects or witnesses, you just have to get approval from a couple chains above you.
I would have to have a reason why I would want to, there was hypothetically some reason I would need to do that. In my 4.5 years in homicide, I've never recorded a witness.
All right, so because you've never done it before, you weren't going to do it now. Is that correct?
There was no reason in our opinion to do it any different than we've always done it.
All right, and isn't it true that the state can override your procedure at the sheriff's office and tell you to video record it? Isn't that true?
They probably can suggest it. I would then have to go to my chain of command.
Well, right, if Miss Wolfson that night said, let's do it, you did it, true?
A sworn statement is different than a regular recorded interview.
Well, Mr. Atkins, you didn't do an interview. You did a sworn statement of Mr. Atkins. Isn't that true?
Detective Oliver and Miss Wolfson did a sworn statement, yes.
Right, and Detective Oliver is your number one partner.
Yes.
You guys work in two teams. Even though there's 4 people on your team, it's you and Detective Oliver, right?
We are primary partnered up together. There are 4. The other 2 are their own partners too.
Right. So again, the answer to my question was yes, Oliver's your main partner.
Yes.
And isn't it true that the state can override your procedures and record or take a sworn statement of a witness because you did it with Mr. Atkins that night?
If the state requests to perform a sworn statement, it is the state performing the sworn statement. That does not come into our policy.
And that's my point. If that's what Miss Wolfson wanted to do that night, you would have obliged her and given her that room to record it.
Yes.
All right, and you didn't do that.
Well, I didn't do what?
Nobody took a sworn statement of Tommy Storns that night or videoed it,
The state did not request one.
right? Tevin Thompson,
The state did not request one.
Leland Brunson.
The state did not request one.
Right. It was only Sean Atkins.
Yes, sir.
And he got interviewed at 10:30 at night, roughly?
Roughly.
Now, I know you had answered some questions about 3-something in the morning you got the warrant signed, but that's not when you made the decision to seek an arrest warrant for Michael Dunn for murder. Isn't that true?
That's true.
It was about 2 hours earlier than that, wasn't it?
It was about 2 a.m., so about an hour and a half earlier.
And at that point, it was after you interviewed Sean Atkins and put him on sworn statement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And that was after you discussed it with Miss Wolfson, who was there with you.
Correct.
Now, you indicated on your direct examination that Michael Dunn was about 3 miles away in his hotel. Isn't that true?
The hotel where he stayed is approximately 3 miles from the scene, yes.
And you can actually see it from the highway. When you go around the road, you can actually see it from the road. Isn't that true?
From the road it's off of, yes.
Right. And again, and we're only talking a couple of minutes drive down the street.
Yes.
All right. Now, again, late at night on that evening, was there a whole lot of traffic in Jacksonville?
That is a busy area of Jacksonville.
But I'm talking about when you got there, are you telling this jury there was rush hour traffic at 10, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night?
No, but it was 7:30 on the day after Thanksgiving.
Well, when did you order officers to go search the surrounding hotels?
That had actually been done prior to my arrival.
All right. And again, when was that done?
I believe the initial BOLO, which is a be on the lookout for, which gives a description of the suspect vehicle, I believe that was issued at approximately 7:43 p.m.
All right, so at 8:43, did anybody make a call from the Sheraton Hotel from the officer saying they searched that area?
I'm sorry, at 8:43?
At 8:43, did you ever learn of anybody searching the Sheraton Hotel 3.5 miles away?
No, because the suspect left the scene. The suspect could have gone anywhere.
I understand that, but you do know the officers were looking at hotels.
I know the officers were looking in areas. We had no idea if he was at a hotel or a house or anything.
So if a sergeant was on scene and ordered his officers to look for hotels, you had no idea. Is that your testimony?
My understanding was a BOLO had been issued and officers were instructed in the area to be on the lookout if they came across this vehicle.
All right, so you would have, again, you have no knowledge if they got specific instructions to go to hotels. Is that fair to say?
I don't recall if they were specifically told to go to hotels.
All right, and you never got any phone calls of the lead homicide detective that officers have gone to hotels? No one ever reported back to you, is that correct?
Not that I recall.
Now, Mr. Guy had you look at some of those phone records. Do you still have them?
No, sir.
I know he asked you about how many phone calls were made just prior to the shooting at 7:40 p.m. Do you remember him asking you those questions?
The last call made prior to the 911 call, if there was one?
Yeah, so you recall those questions?
Yes.
Are your answers accurate in your mind, what you just read?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury how many phone calls did Tommy Storns make immediately after, in the next 10 minutes after the shooting?
Not off the top of my head, I'd have to look at the records.
All right. How about Tevin Thompson? How many phone calls did he make right after the shooting, let's say in the next 10 minutes?
Once again, I'd have to refer to the records.
Okay. And you never subpoenaed their text messages from their phones. Is that true?
I don't recall if no, I don't believe I subpoenaed their text messages, no.
So you don't even know if you have 17, 18, 19-year-old men texting, because you never even subpoenaed those records. Is that fair to say and accurate?
I don't recall subpoenaing, we just subpoenaed their phone records.
All right. So again, you don't know who they text. Is that fair to say?
I do not know who they text.
All right. They could have texted 100 times or one time, but you never subpoenaed it.
I did not subpoena their text messages, no.
You do have the power as a homicide officer and law enforcement to subpoena text messages. Is that true?
That is true. Now, I can't say that Tevin Thompson would have been the only one that we could have done if we had, because Sprint, I know, is a company that does not keep text messages for us.
All right, but you didn't even try to subpoena them to verify in this case. Is that
I did
true?
not try to subpoena Tevin Thompson's text messages, no.
Or Tommy Storns?
As I just said, I know they're not available from Sprint, from our experience.
What about Leland Brunson?
They're not available from Sprint.
Did you ever go into the other plaza where the red SUV had left after the shooting? Did you ever go investigate the plaza?
Me personally, no.
Yes, sir.
No.
That night?
No, sir.
Did you ever have any of your evidence technicians go to the plaza to investigate the plaza where the red SUV had left that night?
No, I did not.
Any other officers go investigate that plaza that night where the red SUV left?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you call any canine officers to come down to do an article search for weapons at the gate gas station that night?
No, I did not.
At the plaza?
I did not.
At the surrounding areas behind where the dumpsters are?
No, sir.
And are you familiar with that gate now? You've been there?
Yes, I have.
Did you go behind it?
I have been behind it.
And there are dumpsters back there, correct?
Yes.
There's multiple dumpsters because not only do you have gate, you also have the restaurant right there. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you ever have anybody search those dumpsters?
Those dumpsters were not that night, no, sir.
Right. Well, tell me when they were searched.
On, I believe, Tuesday the 27th.
All right. So you're saying those dumpsters were searched 4 days after the shooting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do me a favor. Look in your report and tell me where that is.
It's on page 19 of 31.
Well, I only have the 25-page one.
Okay. Would be on Tuesday, November 27th at 18:05 hours.
Hold on. At what time? I apologize.
18:05 hours.
Okay? And tell me where it says they looked in the dumpsters.
After speaking with the businesses, Detective Stapp walked around the gate station and the strip mall and checked the parking lot, bushes, and the dumpsters for any signs of any evidence.
Okay? And how long was he on scene?
They arrived at 18:05 hours.
And they left at 16:45, is that correct?
Yes, it appears so.
All right. And in that 40 minutes they were there, they weren't there to check the dumpsters and the bushes, isn't that true?
There were several things they were there to attempt to do.
Right. Your two fellow officers went there to talk to every single person in that plaza to see if they had video, isn't that correct?
Correct.
Can you tell the jury how many businesses your detectives went to talk to about video?
I would have to count them from the report.
Please do, just don't read from it, sir.
Approximately 13 businesses.
Okay.
14?
Well, it goes all the way up to Unit 22.
15, it looks like. Goes up to Unit 24.
Well, and then you also have Unit 14, so it goes a little higher.
Unit
You want
24.
Let's start.
1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 16, 18, 19, 22 for Detective Stapp. Detective Cayenne was Unit 3, 5, 11, 14, and 24, it appears.
Right. And in that 40 minutes, they would have to go to businesses, find the owners, and then find out if there was video surveillance, correct?
Some of the businesses, they were able to speak to people, yes.
All right. And how many businesses were saying, even if they spent 5 minutes in each business, you're already talking over 40 minutes. Isn't that true?
I wasn't there, so I can't tell you.
I'm just asking you basic math. If they spent 5 minutes in each business, we're well over 40 minutes. Isn't that true?
Roughly, if that's correct, but I can't testify that that's correct.
And that's okay. And in that time, you're saying that your officers did 4 days later a thorough search of the dumpsters and the bushes 4 days later.
If my partners documented that they searched those dumpsters, then my partners searched those dumpsters.
Okay. Were they searched November 23rd?
No, sir.
Were they searched November 24th?
No, sir.
Were they searched November 25th?
No, sir.
Were they searched November 26th?
No, sir.
Matter of fact, they weren't searched until you guys got together on November 27th to have a brainstorm session of what else needs to be done in this case. True?
Correct. It's normal.
All right. And matter of fact, that was the first time you guys said, let's send a helicopter up for aerial photos. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And that was just to take aerial photos. That wasn't looking for a weapon.
No, that was also check for a weapon.
All right. Have you seen those aerial photos?
Yes.
From about 300 to 1,000 feet up, are they going to see anything on top of those roofs?
They are, the evidence technicians, when we ask them, when you're flying over, see if you can observe anything on the roof that looks like a weapon. We ask them to do that.
Okay.
The evidence technician reported back they did not see any evidence of a weapon on the roof.
And this was 4 full days after you were appointed on the case and did your investigation. Isn't that true?
Correct.
All right. Now, you never preserved the scene, or your officers never preserved the scene in that plaza. Is that correct?
No, sir, that was never secured.
All right. And you did know that the SUV left the scene, and correct me if I'm wrong, you measured it. It was over 100 yards away. Isn't that true?
Approximately, yes.
Now, where did you measure? Tell the jury where you measured that you got over 300 feet away.
I measured from the parking spot where we believe the boys had been parked in the Durango, measured that to the, down the drive area that they had traveled, to the big sign that stands in front of basically the strip mall that lists all the businesses. I went to that point, that was 320 feet, but all the boys had been indicated they believed they'd stopped actually short of that distance. I went the additional distance just to make sure I was covering it as best as possible.
And are you talking about from the second spot in front of the gate or the fourth where the Durango was processed?
The third spot where they were when the incident occurred.
So are you telling this jury the Durango was parked in the third spot in the gate gas station?
That was the information. That's where the boys believed they were parked.
Okay, and that's what they told you?
Correct.
Not that Mr. Dunn was in the first spot and they were in the second spot?
No, sir.
They said they were in the third spot?
Yes, sir.
Where did they tell you Mr. Dunn was parked?
The second spot.
What else did you guys do after November 27th when you had that brainstorm session of what else needed to be done with Michael Dunn?
And there are numerous things we did.
Let me ask you this then, and I'll narrow it down for you. You said you didn't, let me correct this also. You said you didn't even know there were 911 calls until over a week later?
No, sir. The night of the incident, when we returned to the homicide office, I did request to have the 911 calls downloaded from our communication center. That night, they only downloaded one call to us, so the only call we were able to hear that night was the initial call from the store manager.
Okay, and you didn't even hear Christopher LeBlanc and Alyssa LeBlanc's 911 call until November 30th, isn't that true?
That is true.
And that's because JSO couldn't find it?
No, sir. I said on that first night, that was all that was made available to us. That was when I listened to them.
How was it made available to you over a week later?
They were placed on a server.
Okay, so you just chose not to listen to them until November 30th? I'm confused.
That was when I listened to the calls. We had numerous things we were working on. I knew the 911 calls would be there. We were trying to, you prioritize it the best you can. That was the day I sat down and reviewed the 911 calls.
Okay, so on November 23rd, did you have the ability to listen to the 911 calls through dispatch?
Only one of them.
Okay, and whose call was that?
I believe it's Lillian Christensen.
All right, on November 24th, did you have the ability to listen to the 911 calls?
No, sir, because I was not in the office most of that day. I was actually in Brevard County most of the day.
Well, you still could have pulled it up on your computer or listened to it by phone.
If I may have been, but I did not listen to him that day.
Well, how did you listen to them on November 30th? Isn't it a digital file or did they give you a CD?
No, it's a digital file.
All right, well, did you have access to a computer on November 24th?
Yes, I did.
Did you have access to a computer November 25th?
Yes, I did.
Did you have access to a computer November 26th?
Yes, I did.
November 27th?
Yes, I did.
November 28th?
Yes, I did.
November 29th?
Yes, I did.
And you never heard Chris LeBlanc say it looked like they were stashing something until November 30th. Isn't that true?
That is true.
Nothing further on.
All right. Mr. Guy?
Detective, when you conduct a walkthrough at a scene, is it your job to point things out to the evidence technicians?
It's not per se my job. What it is, it's just an information sharing basically with the evidence technician to make sure we're on the same page, we're seeing the same things. The evidence technicians will often ask what details we're hearing of the incident because that may help them in deciding what may be evidence and what isn't.
And is the purpose then of a walkthrough to familiarize yourself with the scene itself?
And that too, yes.
And when you reduce notes or observations to a report, do you reduce every single observation that you make to a police report?
No, sir.
You were asked about the taking of a sworn statement from Sean Atkins. Were you advised that Sean Atkins was homeless at the time?
Yes.
Is it easy for the sheriff's office to reconnect or track down homeless people?
It can be difficult.
Well, it's already answered, so
Judge, I think it's a fair question.
I do too. It's overruled.
Did you have any reason to search the plaza parking lot the night of the shooting?
No, we had no evidence that there was going to be anything of evidentiary value in that parking lot.
All right, and the boys showed you where they stopped the car?
Approximately, yes.
And it was south of the marquee, that is between the marquee and the gate station?
Correct.
And tell the members of the jury, they're familiar with the aerial photographs of this scene. Tell the members of the jury, was it on the strip of parking spaces near Southside Boulevard or closer to the buildings?
The ones closer to Southside Boulevard.
All right, can you estimate for the jury, and I know it may be hard, you can estimate how far it would be of a throw from where they said they stopped the car to the roof of one of those buildings in the plaza?
I would say the building itself is probably a good 30, 40 yards away, and then you would have to have elevation on it at that point to be able to get it up onto
All right,
onto the
well,
roof.
there's buildings on the other side of Southside Boulevard, right?
Across Southside Boulevard, yes.
Right, like the Winn-Dixie?
There's a Publix.
Yeah, about how far is that?
That's probably several hundred yards.
And when you measured the distance from the gate parking lot to the marquee, that was actually past where the boys had said they'd stop the car?
Yes.
All right, so you were being very conservative.
Yes, I just used the marquee as kind of a measuring point to use. I knew it would cover where the boys had said they'd been.
You know, may I have a moment?
Yes, sir.
Can I have a moment just to get a photograph up?
Sure.
Ted, do you see stage 3 on your monitor there?
Yes, I do.
All right. You recognize that as being the gate gas station in the plaza where the shooting took place?
Yes.
Can you circle on there where the marquee is? Can you see it? I've got a closer up shot.
No, I can see it.
All right. And the boys said they parked near that marquee?
Yes, they indicated they thought they had stopped right about somewhere in that area, a little bit short of the marquee, but somewhere in that area before getting to the marquee.
Okay, and you've made a small mark. Could I ask you to clear that? Would you make a mark where they said they parked approximately?
I'm sorry, that first one's incorrect. More like in the area of that second mark there.
All right. Let's do this. Can we clear it one more time? If you make a mark for me.
Sure. Approximately in that area.
Ms. Waller, do you have stage 1 up there? Yeah, that available? Might make it a little easier. Ms. Waller, I think it's on storms. I think there's one on storms. Yeah. There we go. You see stage 1 there?
Yes.
All right, how about marking on there where the boys said they stopped the car?
Roughly in that area there.
And so the rooftop, for someone to throw something on a rooftop, where's the rooftop?
It's actually behind this front part here is actually a pretty steep ledge.
That's like a facade, right?
Correct.
At an angle? Okay, so you got to get over that.
Correct.
And then the roof's behind it?
Yes, and then the flat roof would be behind it.
All right, where are the dumpsters at?
The dumpsters are over, it's hard to see them with the trees, whoop, over in this area over here. I apologize.
Can we erase that? Go ahead and show them where the dumpsters are.
They're back in that area.
All right, can you make a mark a little bigger?
I'm sorry.
So we can see it. All right. And then the buildings across the street, that appeared in stage 3. Those are the ones, the Publix on the other side of Southside.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Just now, 1, 3 calls, 1 question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stroller.
Detective Musser, based on those questionings about the roof, if it's so unrealistic to get it done up on the roof, why send the helicopter up to take the photos?
Because I knew you would ask.
Nothing further.
All right, may he be excused, Mr. Guy?
I need him subject to recall.
All right, same. All right, detective, you're subject to recall, so you understand the rule.
Oh, sorry.
But you're excused for the moment.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms.